log in. The excessive percentage of absence is actually only 6%. So if you divide 8 weeks by, if you multiply 6% to 8 weeks, that's basically the amount of time that someone can stay offline, before being considered as excessive absent. If a student is absent because of illness, and so on and so forth, that's basically just saying if you are sick, you might want to let me know ahead of time, so I know that okay, you may not be able to get onto the website. Attendance for online classes, which is basically what we just talked about. This example is using a 16-week full semester class. So that means the entire duration has 2,688 hours. 6% of that is 161 hours, or roughly 6 days in that case. So if someone is absent, or if someone does not log in for 6 days or more for a 16-week class, that can be considered as excessive absence. Since this is an 8-week class, that time is halved to 3 days. Attendance for face-to-face and hybrid class does not apply in this case. Classroom and lab behavior, obviously most of this stuff does not apply to our class unless you want to go to room 152, which is our CIS lab, to do your homework. So in that case, you have to follow those rules. Basically, no food, no drink in the lab, no children, no cell phone, and stuff like that. All right. Conduct code. There is a student conduct code section in the college catalog, so that there is a full description of what the college expects as far as conduct is concerned. In my book, academic dishonesty is an act of deception in which a student claims credit for work or effort of another person, or uses unauthorized material or fabricated information in any academic work. It occurs when students participate in any activity to attempt to show possession of a level of competency, knowledge, or skill that they do not possess. So I do not care how it is done, as long as it fits these requirements, I will still consider that as academic dishonesty. So all of that stuff will be reported, and people involved in this will not receive points for the work submitted. And activities, including that, will not be counted for attendance. It doesn't apply to an online class. The instructor, that's me, may ask anyone suspected of doing that sort of thing to do additional work, or to explain, okay, can you explain to me why this is the correct answer? And by default, in this class, all work are expected to be completed as follows: independently, which means you're supposed to work on it by yourself, and originally, meaning not copying from somebody else or another article online. And this part I'll explain a little bit later, because we do have homework due on next Wednesday, and I'll explain how to work on that. All right, I can retroactively re-examine any work that is already submitted or graded for any evidence of dishonesty. Okay, so let's move on. Any questions about dishonesty, conduct code, and stuff like that? I usually have more problems with some of my other classes, where I have students who are coming in from high school, or they're not. Most of you are working, okay? So I don't think there'll be as much issue here. Letter grade equivalence is really easy. 1/8. If anyone gets less than 1/8 of all the possible points, that person is going to get an F. I think that's not unfair. Anyone who gets less than 3/8 of all the possible points will get a D. This is 5/8, so a C is 37.5% or more. Okay, so that is not that hard. Okay. A B is at least 62.5%, and an A is at least 87.5%. So it's not the same as most of your other classes. Components and proportions, we have homework, which is about 20%. The final exam is 40%. we may have exam 1 or project 1. In this class, we'll have a project instead of an exam. That's 20%. And we have project 2, which is also 20%. So this is for the most part a project-based class. I might ask you some questions in the final exam, but for exam 1 and exam 2, I'll use projects instead. So a lot of that stuff is going to be hands-on. I'll give you HTML documents, and then you guys have to make it, accessible. Grading FAQ, the score is assigned based on observable academic competence and not effort. Okay, I cannot grade based on effort. If there are multiple choice questions, they will be balanced, which means I'm going to use the same rules as SAT. Does anyone know what are the rules of SAT? Or most of the other open exams? Sorry?
Isn't it like the most correct?
It's if you get something, okay, let's say there's 1 point associated with a question with 5 possible choices. Okay? Out of the 5 choices, 1 is correct. So if you answer correctly, you get 1 point. If you do not answer, you get 0 points. But if you answer incorrectly, you get a deduction of 1/4 of a point. That's the SAT standard. A lot of the open exams are like that. It's not to penalize for wrong answers. It's really just to make sure that if I have 2 people, both having no knowledge whatsoever of web accessibility, and I say, okay, I want you guys to sit down and take this test, and after you're done, you can have a piece of cookie. Okay. One person decides and say, well, since I know nothing about web accessibility, I just want a cookie. I'm just going to turn in nothing. I'm not going to answer any questions. I'll just take the cookie. That person is going to get a score of 0. The other person says, well, I got nothing else to do. It's cold outside. I want to stay warm in this lab. So that person decides, I'll just randomly answer something, okay, and then stay warm, get my cookie, and then get out. That person, if I do not have a 1/4 point deduction for wrong answers, that person just by chance will get a score of what? What is the percentage out of the total score?
Depends on how many questions they answer.
Very good. Let's assume there are 5 choices per question.
So that percentage or 1 point or 1/4, right?
It'll be 20%, right? Because if you randomly guess, you will get 1/5 of the questions.
Oh, okay.
Because the chance of guessing the right one for each question is 20%. So if you multiply 20% to the entire test, then you have you will get 20% of the entire score of the test. So, but that's not right, okay? Because both of these people do not know anything about the subject matter. So one person got a 0, the other one get 20% just because of guessing and chance. So the 1/4 point deduction just takes away the 20% that the other person is going to get by chance. That's why there's a 1/4 point deduction for wrong answers when there are 5 choices. Okay, I just want to explain it because some people do not want this to be done because they think it's penalizing the wrong answers, but it's really just for counteracting random guesses. Now it is true that some people are particularly lucky. They can get more than 1/5 of a chance of getting it right, and some people are particularly unlucky and they always get it wrong. Okay, but in statistics, that's the norm is 1/5 of the chance you'll get it right. In this class, there are no late submission. In other words, when there's a due date, the due date is absolute unless it is excused. Right, that's grading. And here we are moving on to some tips here. How do you help a fellow student? In any class, including this one, studying and working together actually helps. Okay, I do encourage people to work together or study together and basically exchange ideas. So the question is, where is that fine line between academic dishonesty and working together and try to understand the material together? Can anyone kind of comment on this? Well, first of all, is it a fine line or not? Or is it a really clear line to begin with?
I think it's pretty clear. Either someone gives you the answers or they help you understand and you understand it on your own.
Okay, so let's say, I'm in this class and I have no idea whatsoever about what TAC is talking about, okay? So I'm not going to ask, some people here, I'm going to ask you, okay? I'm going to say, I don't know how to deal with this particular homework assignment. Can you help me, okay? So obviously you have a choice and say, no, I don't want to help you, right? Okay, let's say you want to help me, okay? Let's say you cannot turn me down and just say, okay, I want to help you. How should you help me so that I won't get into trouble for being considered dishonest? Would you give me just the answers of your homework assignments so I can just copy it? So how would you help me?
By talking to each other.
By talking to me, and making sure that I understand the material, and so that I can come up with the answers myself, right?
Yeah.
So that's the right answer. That's how you help a fellow student, and not be considered, cheating at the same time. Okay, so the line is pretty clear. Sorry, I didn't mean to pick on you. Just find a person to, kind of do the act. Some people are on financial aid, and unfortunately, in the past, I have, caught people cheating, and they're on financial aid. So they came back to me and say, well, you cannot give me a failing grade because I need that for financial aid. But that's not one of the things that I consider when I look at cheating. And the same thing applies for enrollment of future classes. This class really is not a prerequisite of any other classes, so this slide does not really apply. Study habit. I think most people in this class already have a good study habit. But in this case, I'll just kind of mention that too. This does not apply because we don't actually have face-to-face classes. So how would you study in an online class? I mean, obviously, many of you have already taken classes online. Go ahead.
Lynda.com.
Sorry?
Lynda.com.
Lynda.com. Oh, for the video and stuff like that. Okay. That's a paid service, right? You have to pay
Whenever I
for
have
it.
a problem learning a subject, I find another instructor or another presenter has a different method of presenting it.
Yep.
Therefore, you see it at another angle.
Yep, that will help. You can also, post, questions in the forums. I'll have forums for you guys, so you can actually post your questions, and so we can interact online. I have my office hour. You can always, physically come in during my office hour, or if you cannot come in during those times that are listed, just send me an email and say I want to meet with you, but those times, I cannot make it to those times, and we'll try to work out something. Okay, we can always work out a particular time so we can meet face to face. Reading the material will be important. There will be a lot of reading in this class because we have a lot of kind of documents from the government that we have to understand. For this class, doing the homework assignments is important because the homework assignments are designed to help you understand the material, so that you're more immersed in the material. So all of that stuff is important. And also, for the most part, I will also try to do some screen recordings, especially for tricky things that is difficult to explain just by writing. I'll also have screen recording. All right. The last part of this is basically a timeline, a tentative schedule of